Before we get started on today's video, I want to take a quick second and say thank you so much to everybody that has supported the channel over the first, 6 or so weeks of Madden 22. It's mean the world. We're pushing towards 10,000 subscribers, and it's because of you guys and also my awesome editor, Jimmy.
I love you. I love you. I'm not even embarrassed to say it. I love you.
I'm not embarrassed.
Love you.
I love you.
As much as he loves to troll me, I love it as well. I know you guys are enjoying getting to see a different, less robotic and serious side of me. But I also want to, on a other very serious note, let you guys know that the video the other day in which we broke down the basics of match quarters was a total hit. You guys really showed up. The comments were on fire. The views are through the roof. I'm going to include a card right here for you guys. You guys can click on the video to make sure that you guys can watch that, because I think it is certifiably the best coverage that you can run in Madden 22. And we know that it is a very, very difficult coverage to run. Today, we are going to break down cover 3 match and some of the very basics about that coverage in Madden 22. Let's get into it. What is up, guys? Zan from the Zan Madden YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the cover 3 match defense. Now, I will preface this entire video by saying cover 3 is certifiably the worst coverage you can call in Madden right now. The patch a couple weeks ago made it next to impossible to run against people that like to run compression-based offenses. You can still beat it from spread offenses, but I am going to show you today a defense that I think can be usable against 2x2 spread. So let's go ahead and take it straight to the field here. I've got the Seahawks and the 49ers on the field against each other. I chose the Seahawks simply because I think that, this whole match principle at the NFL level kind of started with the Seahawks in the early 2010s to mid 2010s, and then kind of faded towards more of the match quarters style of defense that we're starting to see a lot of teams playing, a lot of split field coverages. Nonetheless, I think that the cover 3 match is something that people would like to learn about and kind of better understand what its strengths and what its weaknesses are. And in Madden, there's a lot of weaknesses. Don't get me started, but let's go ahead and talk about this from a standpoint of very generic basic rules so that you guys can better understand this. If there's a day that EA ends up patching or fixing cover 3, we'll be able to see, some better days ahead with that. But this can also be useful against 2x2 spread. So the thing that I would recommend here with cover 3 match is that if you guys are going to run it, try to make sure that you guys are base aligning your coverage. I don't have the coaching suggestions available here on practice mode. For whatever reason, EA hasn't given us zone drops or coaching adjustments to practice what we are going to preach when we actually take it into game, but we'll work through it. I would recommend setting this to a base align. And the reason I say that is cover 3 is a 1 high defense. And a lot of times somebody can tell what you're in based off if you have 2 safeties high or just 1 safety high. Typically two high safeties mean that you're in cover 2 or cover 4. 1 high safety means that you're in cover 3 or cover 1. And that's kind of the template for most casual Madden players to generally understand what you might be in, one of 2 coverages. Base aligning makes everything look the same. So all defenses, even the ones that have 1 high, will base align to 2 high, allowing you to better disguise your cover 3. And if you're going to run cover 3, you want to make sure you're disguising it. So I'm going to call the Nickel 335 Sam. I want to give a big shout out to my good buddy Colt 45. He has an amazing defense over at the virtual lab partner out of the Nickel 335 Sam. You guys can click the link in the description below to go check that out. Highly recommend it. One of the most underrated labbers in the community. And this defense is something he's been running since the middle of last year. But we're going to go ahead and call cover 3 match here. And so one of the biggest differences between cover 3 and cover 4 match is going to be what your seam flat defender does in this defense versus what a quarter flat defender would do in a cover 4 match. Now, as you saw me audible from cover 3 match into cover 4 match, you can clearly see why it is important that you might play a base align look, because you're going to be able to make everything look the same. Once I base align and then I go ahead and basically if I were to reset my play into cover 3 match, you can see that the safety isn't down, making this a 1 high defense. Whereas if I were to go ahead and respot this ball here with the base align setting off, you're going to show 1 high as you break the huddle. So a good Madden player is going to say, oh, one high, cover three, cover one. And even if you want to base align it, at that point, the deed is already done. Your opponent basically knows, oh, hey, he's in cover one or he's in cover three, and he's just base aligning. If you base align from the rip, this is what it looks like when you break the huddle. And the biggest defense is going to be what the quarter flats do versus what the seam flats do. So when we take a look at, your cover four quarters, as we talked about the other day in that video, the role of the quarter flat is to essentially reroute the slot receiver. So if I were to take these two pink zones or quarter flats, they are going to jam Y and A down the seam and pass them off to the safeties, who will take them man to man no matter where they go. So I'm going to show this to you here. I'm just going to run a fade and a streak on the right, and I'm going to run a comeback and a dig on the left. You're going to see both of those quarter flats slot players jam their man, filter it off to the safety, and then the safeties pick them up man to man, in which case you see right here that we made a nice little play in match quarters. Again, match quarters is my favorite coverage far and away. It is my favorite thing to call. Now, the reason cover three match is so great is that it complements, or it hides, I think is the better word, the weakness of a cover three sky. So when you take a look at cover three sky versus cover three match, they look fairly similar, but again, the difference is the seam flat defender as opposed to cover three sky has a curl flat defender. In a traditional drop cover three zone, the most popular route combination that I personally notice that teams will run in real life at all levels is essentially the double seam concept, where you put this safety into a spot where you read him off the line and then you take your whole shot down the seam and you make his life really, really tough. He has to be able to range from seam to seam to be able to make that play. And in this formation where, Kittle is right here, this double seam combination is pretty narrow and he can make that possible. The more you widen out your double seam concept, the more stress it places on the center fielder in a cover three defense, especially a cover three sky defense, to make that range happen. So you see here, I'm reading this, you could take, if you don't get a pass rush, I'm just going to read the safety. Is he going right or is he going left? And I'm going to take the whole shot down the seam to whichever, spot on the field he isn't covering. So, I got pressured in the example, but again, if I wanted to run a double seam concept against this, and I do have time with my quarterback, it's as simple as reading the center field. That post defender that I talked about is the tell to cover three. He's right there. Okay, I'm reading him. All right, well, I'm just going to hit my whole shot in the left seam right there because he started to flow over towards Kittle. Pretty easy, right? So that's what a lot of players will do against cover three, is they're just going to hike throw down the seam. And the cover three match principle does a really good job of hiding this, because unlike match quarters, where again, we have those pink zones jamming and releasing those guys down the seam, the cover three is going to have the seam flats match those guys down the seam, which takes a ton of stress off of the post defender at the safety. So in this example, if I run the same concept, we're now going to start to play some man match on these guys. So in the slot, you see both of those guys are bracketed on the outside shoulder of their seam, while the safety is able to kind of sit in the middle and play the the equidistant point between those two seam routes. So you see right here how the seam flat defender is going to bracket that. That is, he's playing outside, he's the outside guy on the bracket. The safety is the inside guy on the bracket. On this side, again, Jamal Adams is playing an outside bracket on this seam, but he's matching it down the field man to man. And then you've got the safety to help to the inside. Now, why is this good? This is good because if Kittle then breaks to the corner, we've got perfect leverage by Jamal Adams in his seam flat, playing him man to man. So if I were to go ahead and say run something like, say for instance, let's run, just a comeback seam on the backside, and let's run a flooding pattern here to the wide side. And we're in cover three match. We are going to see that once Kittle hits that landmark of, I believe, 10 yards vertically, and he cuts to the outside, he's matched by Jamal Adams. And now Adams has taken that out cut. So for those of you that struggle with flooding combinations, there you go. So we talk about how in cover four quarters, that flood, that slot out is a real problem, right? So let me go ahead and illustrate that for you. So just for the record, this route right here is a man beater. The one that Sanu is on. It's got a nice little cut in it. But in the match concept, because he's running the vertical route, we are going to get the seam flat defender that is going to match him. So he goes up and then he runs out, and actually played that really, really well. played that really, really well. And then what you end up with here in this coverage now is the underneath zones. These hook zones that are in this are responsible for matching the back. So if we take a look at Bobby Wagner, we have this flood combination out of the spread. We end up with Bobby Wagner playing the swing route from a hook curl assignment. Meanwhile, on the back of this coverage, we've got this slot receiver who is actually a tight end. And we are looking at number 6, Diggs. Right here, he is a seam flat defender. His priority is number 2 in the seam. His second priority is the flat. So right here, number 2 doesn't go into the seam. He instead goes to the flat, so he's going to follow him. He plays the whip. Meanwhile, on the backside, we've got this route, which is, a crosser, and he's being locked man-to-man on the backside by his corner crossing the field. Meanwhile, you've got bracket with hook underneath. So the cover 3 match is actually a solid coverage. It's just really unfortunate that outside third logic in this game got worse with the most recent title update, and there are so many ways that you can bomb cover 3. It can still be a pretty valuable coverage for you guys in terms of, being able to, match some of these flooding combinations that, honestly, cover 4 quarters is a little bit weaker against the slot flood. So even if I were playing, quarters here and they run this same concept here, you're going to notice that the outcut to Y is actually a better read here. You see how he gets out into that spot. So that is a weakness of cover 4 quarters that cover 3 match actually does a really good job of patching. So again, if you kind of bring this back home, we talk about base aligning. Now we're in a 2 high defense. You don't know if I'm in cover 3 match or if I'm in my match quarters here. And if I'm getting somebody that's flooding me to death, I could very easily say, you know what, let's play a little cover 3 match here. And then when they go to throw that outcut habitually, like they do, they're going to be shocked when it ends up, I said that was a man beater. That time it got open. They're going to be shocked when that gets matched man to man. And that's not what they're expecting. What they're expecting is that slot defender, here's a more traditional out route. They're expecting that slot defender that is out over the, the number 2 receiver, Amadi. He's expecting this guy to play the running back swing. But really what ends up happening is it's the linebacker that matches him man to man. And then you end up with the outcut to the slot receiver being matched. So you see right here, he runs the outcut, and then, that throw is complete, but forget it. Amadi's not really that good of a player. And, he got beat just off of a route running disadvantage. But in terms of your assignments and the leverage, that's the better call for the slot out than it is to call cover 4 quarters and let somebody, run out routes that your safety, who's, 15 yards off the ball, has to then break down into the outside to go get. You can just leave that responsibility to your seam flat defender. Now, I want to end this video by telling you guys where not to call cover 3 match. And the truth is, pretty much all the time. This video is useful because I think it still teaches you guys what you can do. But the truth is, from a meta standpoint, this is not a coverage that you can trust. It is not a coverage that you can trust, especially against, your bunch meta. Now, I don't have a traditional bunch here, but as you can imagine, street corner and, flat is the most popular concept in Madden right now. And it has been for a decade. And it's not going to go anywhere next year or the year after that. But cover 3 match does not have rules against compression bunch like cover 4 quarters does. So again, I don't want to get too deep into the quarters. You can go check my game plan on gridirongameplans.gg. But the cover 4 quarters can better stop this type of set than cover 3 match will, because again, it's broken. You're going to end up with, the ability to throw, you see how that outside third bails off of that, and then the corner route ends up being open, and that's just against bunch Y flex. We're not in the regular bunch. I could have thrown, the Z spot corner out of regular bunch. So again, trying to understand why match quarters is better against these, compression sets. It's not too hard to see that right away, that this is actually quarters is a better coverage against this, because, your zone should better match, I guess is what I'm saying. There's actually match principles in quarters against compression, whereas cover 3 match really doesn't have those. So long story short, cover 3 match is a fine 2x2 defense spread. If you're facing gun spread, It's fine if you're facing trips tight end where they like to motion a guy across the formation and it becomes kind of gun doubles. That's something you could leave in your audibles to check into. But it's certainly not an every down base coverage. I want you guys to understand that it still has utility in Madden for some of the more popular route combinations, but it is definitely most certainly not a base coverage call that you can make. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you found it informational, please make sure you guys hit the like button for me. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, drop those below as well. Make sure you guys check out my strategy website. I'm trying to do a little bit more coverage-based content for you guys to help you guys understand that there is a lot more on gridirongameplans.gg. I'm trying not to shove the site down your throat, but you'd be hard-pressed to find a better coverage game plan out there than what I've got right now in terms of helping you understand why you're getting beat and what your assignments are supposed to do. So definitely go check it out. It's $9.95 for the entire site. That's the match game plan. That's my nickel triple game plan. That's every vault update weekly. That's the Ragusa offense, the Salty offense, my Punch Axe Nasty offense. We've done so much content on the website and you can unlock it all for $9.95. It's a hell of a deal. Take advantage of it. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, this is Zan. Get in the lab and good luck.